Iraqi President Saddam Hussein probably never would have been caught by America if he hadn't liked this Iraqi dish called maskouf. For 32 weeks, the U.S. Army tried their very best, but there was no news of Iraq's former President Saddam Hussein. Not only was the U.S. military working day and night on this mission, but U.S. Special Forces, the CIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, National Security Agency, and the FBI also played a significant role. Thousands of people from these organizations were searching for just one person, Saddam Hussein. What kind of threat did America perceive from this man, and how did they? Viewers, this story begins after the 9/11 attacks in America. When Al-Qaeda attacked New York and Washington, D.C., the whole world witnessed America's anger over this incident. At that time, American President George Bush decided that anyone who supported terrorism would be targeted. Of course, Saddam Hussein, who was the dictator of Iraq at that time, was not directly involved in 9/11, but America believed that Saddam Hussein indirectly supported various terrorist groups. However, this accusation was not enough to directly attack Iraq. It was confirmed that the U.S. wanted to end Saddam Hussein's hold in Iraq, where he had been ruling in various roles for the past 24 years. Therefore, to end Saddam Hussein's rule in Iraq and to attack there, the U.S. needed a strong reason, for which America began to claim that Saddam Hussein was hiding weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, meaning nuclear weapons. Based on this claim, America attacked Iraq in March 2003. The U.S. was joined in this effort by the militaries of the UK, Australia, and Poland who fought their way to Baghdad, the capital of Iraq, in just 3 weeks. On the very first day of the attack on Iraq, President Saddam Hussein disappeared. And when the American military reached Baghdad, they found no trace of Saddam Hussein anywhere. U.S. tanks and troops took control of Baghdad and overthrew Saddam Hussein's 24-year rule. At the famous Firda Square there, Saddam Hussein's statue was also toppled by the troops, celebrating their victory. But Saddam Hussein's statue had fallen, but finding and overthrowing the real Saddam Hussein was probably not going to be that easy. Now, finding Saddam and his government's top officials was the U.S. military's top priority. Every single soldier of the U.S. military was given full authority that if Saddam and his 51 officials were seen anywhere, they should be apprehended alive or dead, in any condition. But there were a total of 52 officials on this most wanted list. To help everyone remember their faces, special playing cards were printed on which pictures of Saddam Hussein and his 51 officers were printed. Because playing cards also have a total of 52 cards, and the most wanted list also had 52 names. This helped soldiers when they played games in their free time to repeatedly see and memorize the faces of their targets. For the next several months, the U.S. military searched every nook and cranny of Iraq. Homes were raided, relatives were investigated, shops, colleges, mosques, nothing was left untouched. They only knew that Saddam was in Iraq, but where exactly? This continued for many months, but there was no trace of Saddam Hussein and his 2 sons. After this, the U.S. announced that anyone who provided any information about Saddam Hussein or his sons would be given a reward of $55 million. $15 million each for his sons, and a $25 million reward was placed on Saddam Hussein. Many people in Iraq themselves were against Saddam Hussein, and because of this, America was confident that for the lure of money, if nothing else, some information would definitely come, and that's exactly what happened. A person went to the U.S. military base and said that Saddam Hussein's 2 sons, Uday and Qusay, were at his house. At first, no one believed it, but when the U.S. military surrounded that house, it was discovered that Uday and Qusay were indeed there. They were not willing to come out peacefully because they were also fully armed. Therefore, after several attempts, the house was attacked with a missile. When soldiers went inside the house, they found the dead bodies of both Uday and Qusay. This meant that the last hope of finding Saddam Hussein's whereabouts was also gone, but the US military did not accept this as a defeat. On the other hand, many of Saddam Hussein's associates were found and arrested alive, but no information was received from anywhere. Now, for months had passed, and the situation reached a point where the US military began to think that perhaps Saddam Hussein had also died in some attack. Thinking this, the US military's efforts also started to diminish. Neither any military operation nor any intelligence report was indicating that Saddam Hussein was alive. But during this time, an audio tape changed the whole plot. This audio tape was of Saddam Hussein, in which he was expressing grief over the death of his two sons. This audio tape meant that Saddam Hussein was still alive. America once again intensified its efforts to find Saddam Hussein, and the $25 million reward on his head was increased to $30 million, and along with that, a promise was made to grant U.S. citizenship to anyone who provided information. Enticed by such a large sum of money, everyone started trying their luck. Iraqi people began giving random information in the hope that if Saddam Hussein was caught from there, they would get the reward money. But this made America's job even more difficult. Almost all the people whose faces were printed on the playing cards had been caught. Only a few remained, including Saddam Hussein. At this time, Sergeant Eric Maddox of the Defense Intelligence Agency started thinking in a completely different direction, away from the playing cards. He observed that the individuals placed on the most wanted list were mostly top officials of Saddam Hussein's government. Their power came from Saddam Hussein, not Saddam Hussein's power from them. At this moment, if Saddam Hussein needed anyone the most, it would be his bodyguards. Saddam Hussein's bodyguards were divided into three categories. One protected his palace. Another would clear the area in advance where Saddam was supposed to go, and the third were the close guards. These guards stayed with Saddam Hussein all the time, and at this moment, Saddam Hussein might need them the most. Eric Maddox decided to go to Saddam Hussein, hometown Tikrit, to find these guards. There he interrogated the son of one of Saddam Hussein's bodyguards, Muhammad Ibrahim Omar, but this bodyguard was also missing. Then he met a very old servant of Saddam Hussein, from whom he didn't get much specific information, but he learned that Saddam Hussein was very fond of a dish called maskauf, which is made from a fish in Iraq. Here, Maddox remembered that Muhammad Ibrahim Omar's son, Saddam Hussein's bodyguard, had mentioned during interrogation that his father was very fond of fishing and also owned a fish farm in a city called Samarra. When Maddox reached the fish farm, Muhammad Ibrahim Omar wasn't there, but he did find two fishermen. These fishermen had no direct connection with Ibrahim Omar, but one of them turned out to be the cousin of an Iraqi guerrilla fighter. It's worth mentioning here that when Saddam Hussein's throne was overturned, his close military officials started a guerrilla war against the American military. It was believed that these guerrilla fighters acted on the instructions of Ibrahim Omar, who was Saddam Hussein's closest bodyguard. The fisherman also mentioned an uncle of his whose house was in Baghdad. Maddox, along with his team, surrounded that house in Baghdad, hoping to perhaps get some information from there. And amazingly, Ibrahim Omar was hiding right there. Ibrahim Omar was Saddam Hussein's personal bodyguard, and he often used to send Saddam Hussein the maskauf fish dish from his fish farm. At the moment, he was leading a guerrilla war against the American military, and he was the one who knew Saddam Hussein's actual location. After being arrested, he was unwilling to reveal anything But when Maddox interrogated him and assured him that he and his family would be granted citizenship in the US, he then started talking. Ibrahim revealed that Saddam Hussein was hiding in a town called Ad-Dor. Based on his tip, US troops began searching Ad-Dor town. There were 2 farmhouses along the Tigris River, but both turned out to be empty. At that moment, Ibrahim Omar, who was present with the troops, pointed towards the ground where a rope was lying. The rope was very long and went through the ground into a distant spider hole. The entrance to the spider hole was sealed with a styrofoam. When this hole was opened, nothing but darkness was visible inside. Just then, a soldier was about to throw a hand grenade inside when 2 hands appeared from that hole. It was a man with a long beard who said, "My name is Saddam Hussein and I am the president of Iraq." The American army succeeded in capturing Saddam Hussein alive. The American army succeeded in capturing Saddam Hussein alive. Later, upon analysis, it was seen that if Maddox hadn't found out that Saddam Hussein liked the dish called Maskouf, he probably would never have reached this point. Later, the accusation on which Iraq was attacked, that Saddam Hussein was hiding weapons of mass destruction there, were nowhere to be found, and American President George Bush also confirmed that they found nothing there. We hope you all will like and share this video from Crash Side. Thank you very much for your loving comments. See you in the next amazing video.